The next morning, Alma set out for the sacred forest. The villagers watched her with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. They had heard the stories of the forest, of the spirits that dwelled within it, of the trials it presented to those who sought its blessings. Some whispered that none who had entered had returned unchanged, while others believed the forest would reveal the true nature of those who dared to seek its secrets. Alma walked with purpose, her feet light upon the earth, her mind clear and focused. She had come to accept the weight of her power, but now she would face the spirits, not as a seeker of gifts, but as one who wished to understand. As she entered the forest, the world seemed to shift around her. The trees grew taller, their trunks twisted and gnarled, their branches heavy with ancient wisdom. The air was thick with the scent of earth and herbs, and the light filtered through the leaves in a soft golden haze. The forest was both beautiful and eerie, its silence broken only by the distant calls of birds and the rustling of leaves underfoot. Alma knew that this was a place of deep magic, a place where the spirit world and the physical world intertwined. She walked slowly, her senses alert, feeling the weight of the ancestors watching her from the shadows. After hours of walking, she came to a clearing. In the center stood a great stone, smooth and black, with ancient carvings etched into its surface. The air around it hummed with energy, and Alma felt a pull, as if the stone itself were calling her. She approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached the stone, she placed her hand on its cool surface. The moment she did, the carvings seemed to shift, glowing faintly in the dim light. Alma closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her fingers, the rhythm of the spirits that had guided her thus far. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. "Why have you come, Alma?" The voice was not one of a man or woman, but of the forest itself, ancient and timeless. Alma straightened, her heart quickening. She had known this moment would come, but the voice of the forest was deeper than she had anticipated. "I have come to learn," she said, her voice steady despite the fear that crept at the edges of her mind. "I have come to understand the truth, to walk the path of balance, and to restore what has been lost." The forest was silent for a moment, and Alma wondered if she had said the wrong thing. But then the voice spoke again, this time gentler. "The path of balance is not an easy one, Alma. It requires more than understanding. It requires sacrifice." Alma nodded. She had heard the stories, knew the cost of true wisdom. "I am willing to sacrifice whatever is needed, for the village, for the earth." The voice seemed to hum, as if considering her words. "Very well. You must choose. Take from the forest a gift that will aid you, or take the knowledge of what the earth asks in return. One path leads to power, the other to wisdom." Alma stood still, her mind racing. She knew that the forest was offering her a choice, one that would shape her future. A gift of power would allow her to claim her place as a leader, to wield the strength needed to guide the village. But the knowledge of what the earth asked in return,
Here I am, a designer, and the
that
first
was
thing you'll
something
notice.
far more elusive,
So, a lot of people
far
reach
more
out to me that the
dangerous.
African Folktale
After a
channel
long
is not growing
pause,
as
Alma
fast
made her
as they want
decision.
it to grow.
"I
And when I check
choose
out the
wisdom,"
channel, I find
she
out
said,
that
her
the
voice
stories
steady.
are quite
Though her
basic.
heart was
And
heavy
if you
with
have
the weight
basic
of her
stories on your
choice.
channel, you're going to
The
find it very
forest
difficult
seemed
to
to
grow.
acknowledge
And
her
I want you to
decision.
know that people
The
that
air
watch
around
African
her
Folktale
shifted,
videos
and
watch
the
it
carvings
because
on the
they are
stone
looking for
glowed
good
brighter,
stories, outstanding
then
stories,
faded into
interesting stories that
darkness.
is going to thrill
Alma
them.
stepped
And if you
back,
don't have that,
the
you're
weight
going
of
to
the
find
moment
it
settling
difficult
into
to
her
grow.
bones.
So you need to
She
be
had
able to
chosen a
generate
path that few
outstanding,
ever
interesting
walked,
stories
a
that is going
path
to
of
captivate your
sacrifice,
audience and
of
pull them
understanding
in
the
and
deeper
cause
currents of
them
the
to
world.
subscribe to your
As
channel.
she
Because the
turned
only
to
reason
leave
why
the
someone will
clearing,
want to subscribe
she
to your
saw
channel is
something
if you're
gleaming
giving
on
out
the ground
quality
near the
content.
stone.
And that is why I'm
It was
making
a
this video
small,
to teach you how you
smooth
can come up with
stone,
interesting,
black like the one
captivating,
she had
mind-blowing,
touched,
and
but it
outstanding
pulsed
African
with a
folktale
faint
stories
inner light.
with no hassle.
Alma
Now,
picked
if
it
this is
up,
something that you're
feeling
interested
its
in,
warmth,
please come closer
and knew
and
that
let's
this
dive
was the token
Now,
she
to get
had been
started,
sent
the first
to
thing we
find.
need to do is to
With the
head
stone
over
in her
to
hand,
ChatGPT.
she began her journey
And to do
back
that,
to the
all we have to do
village.
is come over to
The
our browser
spirits
and
had
type in
spoken, and the
ChatGPT.com.
trial
Of course,
was
all of us have an
complete.
account
But
with
Amma
ChatGPT.
knew that her true test was only just beginning. Amma's steps were slow but steady as she made her way back to the village. The stone in her hand, warm and pulsing with an otherworldly light, was a symbol of both her success and the weight of the decision she had made. The forest had granted her wisdom, not power, and though she understood the importance of her choice, there was a part of her that wondered if the villagers would understand the sacrifice she had made. As she emerged from the dense trees into the open clearing, the sun was beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the village. The villagers were gathered around the fire, their voices low in conversation as they noticed her approach. The elders, seated near the center of the gathering, were the first to spot her. They straightened, their expressions a mix of curiosity and expectation. Amma walked towards them, her eyes focused on the ground, her heart heavy with the weight of the trial. As she neared the fire, the elders rose, and the murmurs from the villagers quieted. The moment of revelation had arrived. She held out the stone, the token from the forest, its light casting an ethereal glow across her face. The silence that followed was thick with anticipation. "The forest has spoken," Amma said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I have chosen wisdom over power, knowledge over the strength to command. The earth has given me a token of its gift, a symbol of what lies beneath the surface, what we must all come to understand." Old Jomo stepped forward, his expression unreadable as he took the stone from her hands. He turned it over in his hands, his weathered fingers tracing the faint symbols etched into its surface. The glow dimmed slightly as he examined it, his brow furrowing in concentration. "I see," he murmured, his voice low. He paused, then looked up at Amma. "The forest has chosen you, not for your strength, but for your heart. This is the wisdom you sought, the understanding of balance, not in power, but in the recognition of the cost of what we seek." Amma felt the weight of his words, and the villagers, who had been silent until now, exchanged looks of uncertainty and awe. There was a murmur among them, some nodding in agreement, others still unsure. "Is this what you wanted, Amma?" Nzi Kofi, the eldest of the villagers, asked, his voice cautious. "To return without the strength to protect us, but with wisdom. Is that what the earth has given you? Wisdom is a gift, but can it feed the hungry, heal the sick, or defend the village?" Amma met his gaze, her heart heavy with the truth of his words. She had chosen wisdom, but would it be enough? Would it satisfy the needs of a people who lived in constant struggle, a people who had grown accustomed to fighting for survival? "The earth has given me something deeper," she said, her voice rising with newfound conviction. "It has shown me that true power lies not in dominating or controlling, but in understanding the needs of the land." "I am Zuri," the man said, speaking in a language that was unfamiliar to Amma but somehow resonated with her. "We come from a distant land, and we seek knowledge. We have heard of the changes in this place, of the healing of the land, and we wish to learn from you." Amma stood tall, her gaze steady. "We are a village that believes in unity with the earth, in harmony with nature. What knowledge do you seek?" Zuri's eyes gleamed with a mixture of respect and curiosity. "We have seen many lands and many people, but we have never encountered a community such as yours. We believe that the way you live, your connection to the land, your resilience, holds answers to questions we have long pondered. We seek to understand this way of life, so that we may take it back to our own lands and share it with our..." People. Alma considered his words carefully. There was a sincerity in his voice, but also a... She sat frozen, unsure if she had heard correctly. "You want me to return the goat?" she asked, her voice rising like a storm wind. Kwame nodded, folding his arms. "It was a gift from my uncle. Cannot accept such extravagance. It is too much. We must live modestly, even in gratitude." Alma stared at him, her mouth slightly open. "But it is our wedding day. The goat is not just meat. It is tradition, celebration. Your uncle honored us." Kwame shook his head. "And I honor him by not burdening him further." That goat could feed his household for a week. Alma stood slowly, her back straight. "Kwame, I left my family, my friends, the life I knew, to walk into yours. I wore the best my mother could sew, was adorned with the beads of my clan. I came with joy, not to ask for gold or fine cloth, but for a home where love flows freely. And now, on the first night, you shame me before my own heart." Kwame's eyes dropped for a moment, but his mouth remained firm. "I am not a man who wastes. We will build together, slowly. No goat, no waste." Alma turned toward the small window, the evening sun casting golden lines on her face. "So this is the wealth I was married into. Empty of laughter, empty of feast." There was silence between them, thick, unmoving. A lizard scurried across the clay wall. Then she whispered, not turning to him, "Kwame, when you ask for a woman's hand, you marry not just her skin but her spirit, her joy, her dreams. If you kill one, you lose the others." Kwame looked at her for a long while. She sat frozen, unsure if she had heard correctly. "You want me to return the goat?" she asked, her voice rising like a storm wind. Kwame nodded, folding his arms. "It was a gift from my uncle. Cannot accept such extravagance. It is too much. Let the darkness We must win. Live modestly, not now, not even in gratitude." The crowd circled Alma around stared her, at him, and for a moment slightly she heard the whispers. But some were concerned. "It is our wedding. Others it's not her fight. The goat is not just This was not the moment it to is fall prey to the celebration." She closed her honored us, letting the whispers shook his head. Then she rose. "And I honor him the by pain not in her ankle was still there. That goat could feed his household for a week. She had been chosen Alma for this stood path. Slowly, her back no curse or charm could take that. "I left my family, my friends, the life she said I knew, quietly, standing to tall, walk into yours. Daughter of the earth, I wore the best my mother could sew, and I will was dance adorned again. With the beads of with my that, clan. She stepped forward. I came with joy, her feet not to ask for gold or fine cloth. The crowd but fell silent, where love watching as she moved. And now, her every step night, a declaration of defiance against the darkness. And as she danced, dropped the spirits of the gathered remained firm, whispering, "I am not a man who wastes. lines on her face. A feeling of unease this is the wealth I was married into. She slipped from her bed and walked outside. Empty of feast, feeling there was silence between them. Her skin, unmoving. The village was still a lizard scurried, and she took this quiet moment to meditate. Then she whispered, clearing her mind to the shadows that had crept into her woman's hand. But just as she began to just her skin, but her spirit to meditate, that had crept into her face. But just as she began to focus, then quietly stepped outside. It was the Okomfo. Amma sat alone in his mall. He called softly. No drums, his voice carrying just the chirp of crickets. The harvest dance was over at test. Morning in the hills of Kwahu, but now the rail journey for the birds calling their songs turned to the dew-soaked leaves. Amma rose from her sleeping mat with a stiffness that came not from the cold floor, but from the heaviness in her chest. She stepped outside, her bare feet sinking slightly into the earth, damp from the night's mist. The compound was still. No smoke from the kitchen, no clanging of pots. Only the steady rhythm of her breath and the early sounds of a world waking. She found the cooking area, a simple 3-stone fireplace, and the cracked clay pot she had seen the day before. It leaned like an old woman who had seen too many seasons. Amma ran her fingers over it slowly, faced him, then looked up to see Kwame returning with a bundle of firewood on his back. The darkness you felt their eyes met. Those were not the spirits of the earth, only set down was the work of someone breaking it into smaller pieces. Someone must fear your truth. The pot Amma's heart sank. It would crack if I boil and didn't look up, Amma said. Then boil. Her voice steady despite the fear that was in her chest, but they struck her like stones, no matter the cost. She bit her tongue and began preparing the fire. There will be a cost, her mother had once told her. But know this, when you walk into a man's powerful weapon, you must first learn the rhythm of his silence before you can teach him the rhythm of your laughter. Be prepared to walk that path. She fetched water from the stream, washed a few took a deep breath, and began cooking. She had already taken